start. We are at the important phase now, where the discussion will shift to slightly more deeper and more specific. We're going to deal with all 6 verticals of power sector, and we'll have the speakers from every sector. That CSIRT has already given the input, and we'll take more input from all of you. First of all, let me call CISO for the grid operation. And this is Mr. K. Murali Krishna from Grid India. He has huge experience of grid operations for more than 30 years, 32 years or 33 years experience he's got behind him. And now he is the Chief Information Security Officer for the Grid India, and soon probably Sectoral CIRT will be created under him as we move forward. If Sectoral CIRT comes through or CSIRT comes through, whatever method government decides, though the primary document of CEA says CIRT, but we do not know how it will come about. There are some technical and other issues. So I request you to speak, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good afternoon. Welcome to the sessions back, and this is an afternoon time. Already Mukesh sir has warned the speakers to be more eloquent and more strong. So since morning we had been hearing that how the power sector is a critical sector in view of the grid security and also in view of the cyber security, given the dynamicity of the many issues of the demand is changing, the resource availability issues, and the renewable integration sources have been coming up more and more, and the transmission constraints and the smart grid issues. So all these problems are making grid more and more challenging, and added with this further increase in the digitalization, the cyber security also has become one of the major concerns of the power sector now. So this Indian grid operation is managed through National Load Dispatch Center and 5 regional load dispatch center and 34 state level load dispatch centers, which had been already been depicted by Professor Gurnath in the morning. And the control systems are equipped with the SCADA systems, supervisory control and data acquisition systems, and the URT-DSM systems which fetch the data from the PMUs, and the renewable energy management centers for bringing the renewable data. So in the grid operation sector, the CEA guidelines had been implemented almost to the most of the extent. Most of the utilities have been declared as the CII, and all the utilities have been implemented CCMP, all have been onboarded to CSK, and all have a designated CISO and all CISO, all utilities in the grid operation sector. So, globally, several instances of the cyber security breach has been reported in the power sector. So here I want to differentiate between the event, incident, and the crisis. All events cannot be an incidences and crisis, and all incidents cannot be the crisis. So far in the power sector, Indian power sector, what had been happened is there are many events, but no major incident has happened breaching the grid to the level, the exploitation level, and fortunately we are at a better place as of now, as per the our experience is concerned. However, there are vulnerabilities do exist in the systems, because it is a continuously evolving situation for the cyber security point of view, and we also started since 2020 only the matter has been given more importance, and we had been continuously following it with all utilities and also with the Grid India control centers also to improvise day by day. So, yes, I will come to the topic of the day, that the major concerns or pain points of the system. So, I have just listed out some of the things, but these are the concerns we can call, or we can call the challenges, and most of them have the solutions also. But how far we are being ready and prepared to implement these solutions? That is the point to be discussed and thought of. So, the first point is the full visibility of OT infrastructure. So, we do not have the OT infrastructure visibility completely from the point of view of the how many devices are connected and what are the total asset and how the devices are behaving. So, the agentless identification of the devices integrated in the OT network is required to safeguard this OT as well as the compatibility with the legacy OT systems. So, integration of OT infrastructure in IT SOC, this also needs to be done judiciously to avoid the increase in the threat vectors on the surface area, because once the IT SOC is integrated with the OT system, the threat surface will increase for the OT system also. So, the second issue which I just want to highlight is in our present OT and IT systems, we have the multiple vendor and multiple OEM scenario. So, the major vendors of these systems system core components do not have their own security solutions. So, third-party security solutions are integrated with the legacy, and conventionally OT and IT, which at times becomes challenging from manageability perspective. The third issue which I want to just highlight is the legacy systems, which since morning we have discussed in the earlier panel discussion also, and the end of support systems. So, availability of suitable patches of legacy systems is difficult. However, these systems need to be continued, especially in OT network, due to its dependency on various applications. And the other concern is the IT-OT interconnection. The interconnection OT-IT is unavoidable in view of the business requirement of our grid operation. So, data flow is required from OT to IT and also IT to OT. May not be at the simultaneous time. Both may be required at different times, and it is to for the safe and secure grid operation, this requirement is essential. However, today's OT solutions are mostly Windows and Linux based systems, needs periodic updates and patching, which is also dependent upon the internet. So, this is the second requirement of the OT systems do need the dependent upon the IT system. However, such integration increases exposure surface in IT and increasing in the vulnerability. So, security by design is important in this matter. And then the hardened policies of the security devices. So, hardening requirement of security devices at times hinders typical legacy applications and also introduces latency in the real-time systems. Achieving absolute hardened system therefore becomes a challenge. And closure of the VA findings and the vulnerability analysis of our OT systems are being done earlier twice a year, now once a year as per the CA guidelines, and IT system is being done biannually once. So, the periodic VA are being conducted. The closure of these findings and open vulnerabilities at time are depend upon the vendor approval and the OEM support. Typically, OT vendors and OEMs do not provide necessary patches for all such open vulnerabilities, and may application dependencies restrict to do so. So, the other major concern is the internal risk assessment has to be improved, and gap analysis is to be done in comparison to the adapter standard is very much required to improve the cyber security hygiene and cyber security posture of our SLDCs. And capacity building, here we have the dedicated CISOs and all CISOs also, but we are having the multiple tasks to be in many utilities, the multiple tasks has to be managed by the single man. Also, the adequate expertise and adequate manpower resources are missing in many of the utilities. And the test bench and testing facilities had been not there at many of the utilities, which is a prime and must required to check the testing of the patches and the updates. So these are the two major concerns which I could just list out for the grid operation sector. So thank you very much for the ICAI for giving this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mullar Krishna ji. Let me tell you, we had a very long interaction with him, and his vision, though he is new to the cyber security, but his vision on cyber security has amazed me, that he has total clarity of subject. That was important, and I thank him. I request Professor Goyal to honor him.
सिर्फ एक बात के लिए आप सबको धन्यवाद, साधुवाद, प्रणाम, क्योंकि जनरली लंच के बाद नींद भी आती है, लेकिन हमारा डेलीगेट्स पूरे सब कुछ हैं, सबका धन्यवाद.
Thank you, everybody. So, it is important to note that we'll quickly flash the regarding membership of people who want to join the membership as an organization or as a PSU or as an individual. The membership will be opening. So okay. So there is membership, but we will look at it, and that will be available. And you will have lot of insights. One, you can have opportunity to become the part of various working groups which will create, like for example, on completion of this event, we intend creating working groups who will work throughout the year on this particular specific vertical and look into the issues, that how the things are, and hopefully send the recommendation not only to the government but also to the private sector, that that's what the products we are looking for in the future, or what's the challenges we have. Thank you very much. Now let's look at the next speaker which we have, Shri Anand Shankar. He is Chief General Manager Information Security of Power Grid Corporation of India Limited, and designated as alternate CISO for Power Grid. His career spans more than 3 decades. He has wide experience in power systems operations, asset management, enterprise information system, ERP, and information security. Mr. Shankar is graduate in electrical engineering from NIT Calicut. He did his post-graduation power system engineering from IIT Delhi, and also post-graduation diploma in information security and from IGNOU. He is certified lead auditor for ISO 27001 2013 and a member of BIS and many other activities. His list is pretty long. I'm just stopping here, and let's hear to him rather than his speech will tell more details. You'll watch. Thank you. Please come, sir.
Thank you, sir. I will try my best to come to the expectations of the audience and the organizers of this important event. There are a lot of ideas and policy issues which we need to be deliberating. So I just titled my session for policy perspectives, and these are some thoughts which have crystallized over a period of time, and they're still, I can say, a work in progress, because it's the concerned stakeholders jointly who evolve with the agenda, and it takes time for an agreed perception to take ground roots at the ground level. So it is an important point which has brought us all together, that power sector is the most critical sector for regard to the critical sectors are concerned. But there are significant differences when it comes to the sector itself. If you see the sector, this is one important sector which is concurrent in nature. So that is where it differentiates the priorities and the regulations and the compliances which we are seeking from a central government perspective and from a state government perspective. So there are entities who are operating in this space and they have different authorities to look up to. So those who are in the central sector, obviously the central government and their priorities, it takes a call. And similarly, in the state sector, it is the state government and the election politics, which basically impacts the governance mechanism inconsistently across various state and central sector entities. That's a reality. As a citizen, we all are seeing that. But cybersecurity being a very critical function, I must go back to the fundamental reasons by which we have this concurrent nature of division of subjects. So from a division standpoint, if I can say, what is cybersecurity all about? If cybersecurity is to span n number of issues, and I take out two things from that entire panorama of subjects, one is communications. If I take out communications on one side, and other side, I take out defense, then what is left of cybersecurity? Practically nothing. So both communications and defense, national security is a central subject. So how do we define cybersecurity in the division of subjects? In my opinion, personal opinion, this is a central subject. So irrespective of the governance mechanism we have in the states, cybersecurity needs to have an undivided governance mechanism, and that should be a central subject. It cannot be a concurrent subject. So while power generation, power distribution, power transmission as a business is concerned, that can be a concurrent. But when it comes to cybersecurity, the division of subjects should be such that since it concerns national security, so that is very well laid out. A communication mechanism and a defense mechanism, that are two major cornerstones on the entire cybersecurity subject resides. If we don't, then the whole cybersecurity collapses. Okay, so that's my fundamental paradigm, and that is where so many entities which are operating in the central sector and in the state sector and in the joint sector and now in the private sector. So all these things are impacted because of this policy paradigm. So we need to decide which way the policy will go forward because cybersecurity would require a very focused approach because national security is concerned. Now, these are the various entities who are operating in this space, and they need to focus, and the business is evolving. So when we talk of cybersecurity, the governance of the business process is fundamental. So whatever the business context, the organization context, that must be brought out and then correlated with the cybersecurity, and then the risk positioning will come clear. So we are not going to talk only about vulnerabilities, we are also going to talk about the governance process, the business process, around which the whole assets evolve, and how the governance process is fundamental when we go for cybersecurity as an institutional arrangement. Now, from a information security standpoint, these are the key drivers, in my opinion. I have abridged the list is a bit longer, but these are most recent cases. For example, Information Technology Act is the starting point, and obviously the rules which were introduced in 2011 for reasonable security practices, which are basically recommending that you implement ISO 27001 as the information security management system. That is one important recommendation for all entities who are require compliance, playing a significant role. They must implement the information security management system. And for the protected infrastructure, obviously rules in 2018, they have been introduced for the NCIPC recognized entities. Similarly, for the companies which are listed, we have to have board level risk management committees which have a role as per Companies Act 2013. And again, Ministry of Home Affairs has come out with the National Information Security Protection Guidelines, basically amalgamating so many standards and best practices in a coded manner. Starting 2017, we have the CRC communication standards, so that's why each of the RTUs which are dotting each in the state or the central sector setups, power generation setups, substation setups, all the RTU data needs to flow to the central system, utilities. So POSOCO will be getting that data. So that's the regulation from CRC that it is mandatory for them to get that thing. Availability certification is an important part. Similarly, CA guidelines have come in 2021, which have now been amalgamated as part of regulation of India Electricity Grid Code, and there's a responsible entities have been defined. So right from utilities to system integrators, suppliers, everyone is listed as a responsible entity. Now that requires role clarity, which entity has what role, to what extent responsible entities are responsible for their code. So there is a code of conduct probably which can be laid down in segment wise, what segmentation the responsible entity belongs to and what risk he pertains to. That is something which we need to frame. Then very recently, I think this is yet to be announced, but it's very much around the corner, National Cybersecurity Reference Framework 2023, that is about to be notified. It again brings into focus many standards and practices which has been codified, reviewed with regard to the practices which require to be in the critical information infrastructure space. And obviously the DPDP Act. Also, cybersecurity management system is being brought in by Quality Council of India as part of the joint work being done by NCIPC. So they are going beyond the basic ISO 27001, and there are some higher level of guidelines are coming for the critical sector entities. Now, much of this debate we have seen with regard to sectoral CERTs as far as Power Ministry is concerned. So earlier, we had these 6 sectoral CERTs. So as we say, it evolved from that position. Now we have a unified CSIRT power, which is housed at CEA, and these erstwhile sectoral CERTs are in the transition process. So we are more like a nodal coordinator for that particular subsector, but from a legal standpoint, the position is clear that CSIRT power is the sectoral CERT. So we have the CSIRT power order released by Ministry of Power, and that is where the roles and regulations have been defined. And this is the place where we don't have the sectoral CERTs as we earlier used to say CERT thermal or CERT hydro or CERT grid operation or CERT transmission. All that is now being transited to a more focused role of CSIRT power. So as far as the transmission sector is concerned, these are the parameters which the ministry times to time monitors. This is something like 50,000 feet overview of what basic measures each utility is required to undertake. For example, they say that you need to have a CISO who is spearheading the cybersecurity operations each of the utilities. So from a transmission sector perspective, we have been monitoring about 48 utilities, and they all have the CISOs in place. Then the cyber crisis management plan, 34 of them are having a cyber crisis management plan. 27 of them are declared, identified as a critical information infrastructure. 18 of them have implemented ISO 27001. All 48 utilities are on board with regard to the services of certain, where the special unit Cyber Swachhta Kendra is monitoring their external IP interfaces and what kind of traffic goes on, that kind of analysis coming. Then audit also is being monitored. So 29 of them are having some documented audit process, and audit has been conducted, VAPT has been conducted to them. So this is a very recent situational awareness report, just a snap from that. From the transmission sector perspective, what Cyber Swachhta Kendra is able to monitor from the published IP addresses of the entities. This is the kind of traffic which is suspect, and they have been warned against. And this shows that a couple of activities are being monitored. This is a subset of 48 transmission utilities, but then picture is grander because CSK is collecting wider data from about 200 utilities. And if you see, SSH is one large segment where SSH port is open or this is having certain support issues which needs to be addressed. And surprising also, you can see RDP remote desktop connection also is operating, and IEC 60870-104 also traffic is seen. So this is something which is giving a symptom at the perimeter level, which is basically the IT phase of the utility. They are not the OT phase. OT phase is much behind that. So even at the IT space, some monitoring is going on, and we need to see this next graph. So basically, even when these CSK gives them the alert, how the various utilities are responding. So you can see that when the alerts are raised and what times the utility is concerned is responding. So those times are getting shorter. If you see the time spans, most of the utilities are now in a position to respond. This is a significant change from about 2-3 years earlier when the people were not knowing what kind of traffic is impacting them. Is there somebody who is responding to that, and what problems he has? So there are still problems, I'm not saying, but even from an IT perspective, there is visibility of the traffic outside the perimeter, which CSK is able to monitor and give a feedback, and there's a response back. So every 15 days, there's a report by CSK, and this kind of monitoring is going on for all the 200 utilities. Now, what are the challenges is that once we have taken that role of nodal coordination, we figured out that there are issues when we address these CSK alerts. There's insufficient technical expertise in the utility organizations. Most of them are depending on the backend vendors or the system integrators. So if there's an alert which is posted, the person just gives a post office job, goes to the system and integrator vendor and asks for his help. And that is where the turnaround time is much higher. Then there's a shared infrastructure. Most of the unbundling has happened and the operations are happening. Generation is separate, transmission is separate, distribution is separate. But there is a legacy where they all are operating in the same ecosystem. In fact, many of them are still sharing the same building. And the people actually also are very closely knit, and they are still having the same cultural background. And security requires a different context of the culture, and it requires appropriate grooming and the governance mechanism. Then there's an ambiguity in the organizational boundaries. As I said, though the deregulation has happened, but the boundaries are still there, which is basically on paper. And awareness about the updates and static changes which are required, that also is pretty slow. But it is there. Most people are now started taking note of it, and this is where. Now, when we take off cybersecurity and the supply chain and the various threats, this is something which is more fundamentally which we need to analyze. There are vital points, A, B, C, in any project which we implement. So at the extreme left, we have the initial picture when somebody proposes, okay, I am going to implement this scheme, or this is how the system will go about, and we start framing some initial specifications around it. This is how the initial visualization happens. Then we come out with a tender process. There's a tender opening date, a tender award date. At point A, we award. The tender is awarded, and the party responds, and he proposes, okay, these are the available options in the market. I'm going to implement this, and then some guidelines and how the implementation will happen starts taking shape. And point B is the time, roughly, this can be this side or that side, whereas the average life of the IT solution which you are implementing is ending. So, see, the timeline of the product which is being implemented in your solution is nearly synchronizing or overlapping the time when your tender is about to be completed. And the asset lifetime which the utility is required to operate is much longer. So at point C, when the asset has been taken over and the billing has happened, the liabilities for the vendor and the contract has ended, your trouble starts. So it is the honeymoon period which stops at point C. We have to live with the asset at point C, and much of the beyond the cybersecurity risk starts growing. Because at that point in time, much of the dotted assets which you have, they start outgrowing their supported life, and you don't even get the vulnerability reported. So much of that is a black hole with regard to cybersecurity risks that goes on. So that is where we need to come back to the basic question: what is the supported asset lifetime from the service OEM provider, and how the policy with regard to depreciation of the assets and my tariff, which I am going to charge as a commercial to my customers. So this is the yaksha prashna for the cybersecurity in the whole space. So this is very critical. But when we talk of assets and vulnerabilities, I love this picture. So suppose this is a 500 rupees note. So this is an asset value is 500 rupees, and if I burn it, I destroy it by putting a fire. So why it gets fire? Because it's paper. It is combustible. So that's the property of the asset. So vulnerability is nothing but it's a property of the asset. That is first to be known. Now what happens in most policy forums, we start talking about vulnerabilities. So if I'm a human being, it's not my fault that I have a heart which is operating and I'm prone to heart failure. Okay, so we don't talk about that. We should not be talking about vulnerability. We should be talking about the risk. If I'm diabetic, if I'm having a blood pressure, then I am at risk. Similarly, if my paper is protected in a fireproof chest, it is protected. I will not talk about the vulnerability. So it is the control measures which I have to take by protecting the assets. So that's how we will reduce the risk surface area. So we should be talking not about the vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities required to be known, because unlike a hard asset, a soft asset, vulnerabilities comes to know over a period of time. So we need to keep tab on that, but we need to be talking more on the coverage of the risk control measures which we have to take. What is the risk around the asset and how it has to be controlled and whether it is effectively being done. That is the agenda of the governance process. So that is something fundamentally which is missing. We are only weeping around there is a vulnerability and you put a patch and the patch is available. Whether it presents a risk, that is not an issue. Nobody's talking about that. So risk mitigation and risk planning, how the risk around the assets have to be done, that maturity needs to be developed together as a forum, as this community. So this is the true picture of vulnerabilities. So while vulnerabilities will be kept on reporting, this is a 2018 picture, which says that 63% of the vulnerabilities are discovered are at a much lower level. And only 7% of the reported vulnerabilities are actually exploitable. So while your auditor might come and say, this is my fancy audit report and these are the audit, you might find 25 vulnerabilities reported and you are having a sleepless night. Very few of them are actually exploitable. To that extent, only the risk comes. Then what is the measure which I am going to take? So we need to go much deeper into how the vulnerability is to be addressed. Then these are the, one side is my physical plane, the power system. And the right side is my cyber security plane, cyber plane. Now, a lot of communication is happening among various nodes. And believe me, the left side is the power system contingencies with its own reasons. And they are much higher in number. So if you have power system contingencies, it might happen because of an earth fault or a bus fault or some other faults which happen. So they are far larger in number. So that has a wider impact of a cascade. Wider risk of a cascade. Unlike the connected physical grid, where a grid collapse is very much likely, minus the cybersecurity part of it, the cybersecurity domain has its own level of contingencies. And we are blessed that much of the cyber domains are operated by individual utilities in their own perimeters. So a contingency in cybersecurity may not flow to that level as perceived properly in the this side. Now, again, the business, how it has changed and how business is impacting my cybersecurity position. Now, unlike in the past, about 20 years back, when TBCB regime is not there, most of these assets are actually owned by the government entities. Now, with the coming of tariff-based competitive bidding, much of the assets, like the basics, for example, in power grid substation tomorrow, might be coming out of an assets which is coming out of a TBCB project, which is run by an entity which is not Power Grid. But as part of the bidding process, he puts his assets there. Now the governance mechanism. What is the modalities between Power Grid and that entity with regard to ensuring cyber security? Now suppose there is a cyber incident which happens because of the entity in basics. Who will take the responsibility? So those are the nodal questions which need to be answered. So while the governance is there, for example, there was a discussion some time back in some policy forum. They said, okay, if the land belongs to Power Grid, the governance for basics also will be with Power Grid. But that cyber security governance modalities have not been agreed upon in letter and spirit in a document which I can follow. Okay, this is what I will do, this is what I will not do. Or this is how the joint meetings will be done to review the process. A paper is there, and that's about it. So sectoral certs, already a lot of things have said. I just want to say that there are certain documents which are very important. From a sectoral cert perspective, the Internet Engineering Task Force has already said RFC 2350. What are the expectations of a computer security incident response team? So that is a standard by which my process, how I'm operating as a CSIRT should be judged. There's a good report from ENISA, Europe 2020, I believe, that the sectoral cert capability survey has been done. So how various countries in the Europe area, how they are performing in the electricity subsector and how those sectoral responsibilities are being handled. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from that place. When we talk of cybersecurity capability maturity model, there's an exercise which US Department of Energy is doing, and it's a very well established model. There's also a question of what is the maturity model of the sectoral certs. That also needs to be talked of, and CERT has already issued a guideline for setting up state and sectoral CSIRTs, and which has a lot of things written in place which need to be followed. With regard to incident classification in the business space, for example, grid incidents. So this is the usual division in Indian regulations, that grid incident, grid disturbance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are several categories which have been documented as per the CA regulations, and a lot of incidents are being reported. So what is the correlation of these grid incidents vis-a-vis the cyber incidents? So when we talk of cyber security, I must correlate with the grid incidents. Otherwise, they are IT incidents. So they happen in isolation and have no correlation with the grid incident or grid disturbance. So when we talk of the CA regulations, we talk of the grid incident and grid disturbance coding, and then we go for, let's see how this is, even in Europe, they have this kind of classification. So we have scale 0 for local incidents, scale 1 for noteworthy incidents, which are wide area incidents, scale 2 for extensive incidents, which is in emergency state, and scale 3 for wide area, which is impacting the transmission system operator. So some of these business, how the grid operates, how the various business things operate, they need to be dovetailed with my cybersecurity concerns. Otherwise, things are not happening. We remain talking about IT threats only in air, which is not in the OT space. Even NERC, which most world talks about, they talk about 15 minutes, within 15 minutes of the incident, if there's a 300 megawatt loss, then they correlate as a noteworthy incident. So you're not going to say, okay, some vulnerability has been exposed and some denial of service has been reported and some reporting agency has claimed that an incident has occurred. No. That should not be our worthy. We should classify what are the worthy incidents which we should take off. Then we can say, okay, grid incident 1, 2, what I will do. This is just a suggestion. It's not recommended, but each of us, we need to come on with these things. So this is what I thought, we need to relate the business context, the asset, the risk, and then we talk about the plan. How do we address cybersecurity? So that is something which is more vital. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was an interesting talk. And of course, your complete grasp of the subject was known to we just learnt about it. It is very interesting. It is cyber electric security environment, which we understood from your talk. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I now request Professor Goyal to honor. Thank you very much. Now, for the next event, I request Mr. Sandeep Puri, CISO of NHPC Limited, to give his gyan to us. He has more than 38 years of experience in the field of power generation, and he has been responsible for multiple power generation units, hydropower generation unit if I am not wrong, and as CISO he is responsible for the complete vertical of hydropower generation. I request him to give us input.
Good afternoon. I'm really thankful for CSAI to give me this opportunity to deliberate. Before lunch, I asked the question, which system is the most secure system? I didn't get the answer. So can you try, please? Who is having more firewalls? Who is having more cyber security system? No. The most secure system is the system which is power off, away from the network and under the sea. So it's a general perception that putting all the security devices and everything, we are more secured. It is not like that. So again, come back to this thing. I say it has been, people have mentioned since morning that power sector is the most critical infrastructure importance, has more critical infrastructure importance. I say it is super infrastructure importance it has, because a recent incident I will narrate that recently in Himachal, flood has washed away many kilometers of optical fiber, and the whole communication system came to standstill. But I requested to the authorities that they should restore the system in a time-bound manner, and they could do it. But then suddenly a phone call came in the night, and I was told, sir, system to restore ho gaya, power restore nahi hui, isliye system kaam nahi kar raha. So this is how I say it is the most critical system. Now, being coordinator for hydro, I'm CISO NHPC, and I'm coordinator for hydro utilities, 35 hydro utilities across India. And they are hydropower generators, and their security, we are assisting them. As a coordinator, it is our duty to assist them, to follow CA guidelines, to enable them to make a framework, whether it is, you call it, since CA has already issued comprehensive guidelines on implementation of cyber security in power sector, NHPC is complying with these guidelines and helping by hand-holding the other utilities for implementation of the same to the maximum possible extent. Why I say maximum possible extent? Because each one of the utility has different capability. People, process and technology. Somewhere people are not there, somewhere processes are not. Since we are giving them the framework for the process to implement, and then again technology is not there. Because some of the organizations, they don't have even IT infrastructure. So we are handholding utilities for implementation of the cyber security to the maximum possible extent, resulting the cyber security posture across hydro sector has improved and now reaching towards a satisfactory level. Why I am trying to say satisfactory level? That all the utilities across India are not at the same platform. So we are trying to bring them to the same platform. And considering the CA guidelines as benchmark. See, CA guidelines are there, it's a Gita. But only you can rely on it by implementing it. If you are not serious in, you get a lot of inputs from CSK, and CII PC on a day-to-day basis. If it is not done, you are not implementing it, you are not seeing the vulnerabilities which are flashed, you don't take corrective actions, then you can't say that you are attacked. Cyber security is a continuous practice. As we are marching ahead, we need to be more aggressive instead of merely complying the guidelines to protect critical information infrastructure. Compliance is not the only thing which you should do. You should also do proactive activities like seeing the logs, whether you have done geofencing or not, whether geofencing has been done in actually or not. This you have to make sure yourself that the process you have implemented is in place. This is the need of the hour to protect the power sector infrastructure as threat actors are emerging with more advanced tools to penetrate continuous attacks. We all know that continuous attacks are happening on all the system, whether it is mail, whether it is internet, through internet, or whatever devices, whatever, all the devices are vulnerable. Even my view, OT devices are more vulnerable than the IT devices. For IT devices, we have got many solutions, but OT is far, far behind. I'll take one example of your devices like Alexa and Siri at home. How many people use it? I think everybody uses it. But how many of you know that they are listening to your day-to-day activities? They are very vulnerable devices. I have come across one incident where the name of the person was spelled from the device. Hydropower stations has inherent issue of remoteness. Like in NHPC, all the power stations are at the terrain, and we are working with I call it that we are present everywhere where the army is present. So that is all the border areas. Then reliable connectivity and prompt maintenance support becomes a challenge. See, if you want the support from OEM, that is a real challenge. Then how to ensure cyber security in hydropower sector? NHPC is being the CERT hydro doing periodic meetings with the utilities. Actually, I'm repeating the same thing what Anand Shankarji has said. When he delivers a lecture, there is nothing more to say. More than that, nobody can say that. So we are doing a one-to-one meeting with all the utilities. There are about 200 power stations where we are doing this. In case hand-holding in case of any issues, prompt threat information sharing. If we get some information from any threat, we also share with them. Then they are advised to conduct periodic cyber security audit and basic or intermediate trainings by both internal and external agencies. As you have seen, we are holding hands with the NPTI, and being a coordinator for Hydro, it is my duty to inform when they are conducting some courses, because utilities are not they don't come to know what courses are being conducted. Cyber security courses are being conducted by the NPTI, so we have to give them the information. Today I was talking to Dr. Tripta Thakur that number of people, number of agencies has started approaching them in real sense. Then NHPC also conducted cyber security capability maturity model, popularly known as C2M2. It was an exercise for assessment of the hydro utilities, cyber security posture of the hydro utilities. To ensure the cyber security, almost all the hydro utilities are maintaining air gaps and providing higher isolation between IT and OT infrastructure. This is whether you believe, whether you want to know, or whether you believe, whether you agree or disagree, this is the reality. That legacy systems are there, they cannot be changed overnight, because there are a lot of huge capital investment is required to be done. Maybe at the PSU level or at the state level, agencies, utilities started doing it, but private agencies are reluctant to put their money on the cyber security. CISOs and out CISOs have been nominated by all the utilities. CCMP has been prepared by majority of utilities and progressing well towards ISO 27001 ISMS certification. As Anand Shankar ji has already narrated that CSMS is the framework is being made, and soon it will be the reality. However, the major challenges faced by the hydro utilities are budget, trained skilled manpower, supply chain vulnerability, hardening the legacy system, longer period of OEM support for upgrade and patching, inadequate testing facility for the equipment of OT system. For IT, you will get a lot of people, those who will come and do VAPT for you. But for generating equipment, it is very difficult. You will not find, and you will not allow also to do the penetration testing on your OT systems. Utilities are facing problem in mitigating vulnerabilities discovered on OT system due to obsolete legacy system and their dependence on OEM. Utilities are also being emphasized to obtain cybersecurity compliance from OEM in case of replacement of equipment. It is as per CA guidelines, you need to get a certificate from the OEM that the equipment he is putting it in your system is cybersecurity compliant. Recently, I have seen one of the utility, they have got sensors at the gate opening, and they were saying just they have put one clause in their RFP that the system should be cybersecurity compliant, and OEM was not ready to give any certificate with respect to the cybersecurity. So it is again advisable you put this thing in your RFP. Whenever you are going to change any equipment or replace any equipment, this should be the most important clause in your RFP. Most of the hydro power plants are very old, and some of them have manual operations, no SCADA system. Most of the plants have legacy SCADA industrial control systems, which possesses a great cybersecurity risk. Upgradation of those systems is very costly and almost complete replacement costs, resulting huge financial burden on the utilities. Utilities are trying to harden the legacy OT system to ensure cybersecurity. However, complete hardening is not feasible always. So this is a very big challenge. So since morning we are listening this, that air gap is nothing, but let me tell you, the reality is the air gap is today securing us from the cybersecurity attacks. If, before concluding, I would like to say, if we give somebody, a blessing, we say Ayushman Bhav. Now I have got another blessing, say Cyber Secure Bhav. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was an interesting wish. So I really wish that we achieve your cyber secure bhav. I request now Professor provide the. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
सर एक रिक्वेस्ट है, अगर टाइम कंस्टेंट ध्यान में रखें.
बोलते टाइम थोड़ा लास्ट पीपल पे ज़्यादा प्रेशर आता है फिर, बिकॉज उनको रियली कंप्रेस करना पड़ जाता है. सो आई रिक्वेस्ट मिस्टर अक्षय कुमार पटेल फ्रॉम NTPC. He is CISO and General Manager IT Communication. He is MCA in addition to many other certifications. He is trained at US CISRT on the cybersecurity of NTPC and have worked in multiple levels in the field. We like to listen to you, sir, and take your views. Thank you. Please, sir.
Actually, I'll be brief.
Thank you all. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cyber Security Association of India, for giving me the opportunity for this sharing our views. Now I will be brief my presentation. Actually, this presentation is slight jotting up things. Now this will have introduction, compliance, and whatever guideline already Anand Kalam have already comprehensively has given. Then what are thermal power utilities, the specifics about thermal power utilities, and cyber security activities, whatever thermal we are doing, way forward, and probable considerations. So what actually I am completely in agreement with Anand Shankar Sahab when he says actually CISO is functionality is actually a authoritative designation, actually CISO, which has some sort of authority linked to it. But we are more or less coordinator, cyber security coordinator to the best we can say ourselves as cyber security coordinators for the sector. Now there are 6 cyber security CISOs, as already been told. Now the primary roles, CISO thermal, what we are doing is coordinate main cyber security coordination, then forward the message and communications from regulatory bodies, whatever we are getting, forwarding to utilities, then follow up, collect and compile the information whatever we required from regulatory bodies, then share knowledge, support generation activities on cyber security aspects, and share the advisories received from regulatory bodies. Now, these are actually Anand Shankar Sahab has more elaborately told things. Actually, I have listed only the practical aspect of things like cyber security guidelines. Most of the times we are following. Then directive guidelines of regulatory bodies like certain directives, CA, MOP from time to time, the regulation or guidelines whatever we are getting, and IT Act 2000. Then certain issued safe and trusted internet. This is good. Compendium I can say on cyber security in nutshell everything, IT, OT, personal, official, everything is more or less there. So we have shared and tried sharing information on this to our utilities, and this is a good document. Then GIEW 3.0 for our website, we are telling our developers to follow GIEW, that basically good practices are listed there, is 3.0. Then the most difficult part, procurement, following these MIT and DPIIT guidelines. Then thermal utility, how they are different in the sense in power sector. These are specifics like the large installations, large static installations, communication-wise, transmission or grid operations, and these things are more or less have major things, the connectivity. The end points are, the installations may be smaller, but they are much more thing is on communications. Ours is basics setup, then isolated from other external networks. That means each power plant, I can say each power plant doesn't need to connect to anywhere else except some predefined points like RLDC on one end and IT, OT network just to take analytics, just to take inputs for MIS. So from these 2 points, the power plant should not have external connectivity. Of course, you need updates, all those should be or are being done at offline mode like CD, DVD, all these things. What we feel or telling our utilities, basically basics, as Anand Shankar Sahab already told, basics we have to follow. Once we fill up the basics, like hardening all our connectivity points, like whatever external connectivity we are doing and all those things, we can probably reach cyber security. Then generally no remote management at present, at least what we have heard from our utilities, there is no remote management because installations being big, we are always manpower, local manpower there, so we generally don't require remote management in power stations because these power stations are big setups, and so there is no dearth of manpower there. We can put our manpower there. So that's one region where remote management is not being done. That is one thing. IT/OT connectivity, IT side connectivity towards OT is not there because you don't require remote management. Even in one plant, if there are 2 or 3 units or 4 units, those are physically kept differentiated. Now, many vendors, sub-vendors, service providers, OEM dependency is there, requirement of remote support from vendors, service providers. Then activities, identification of CISO and alternate CISO at utility level, structural discussion with utilities, one-on-one discussions. Already, Sandeep Puris have already elaborated on this, forwarding of the cybersecurity advisory from certain. This is a follow-up we do normally for, as per cybersecurity guidelines, formation of cybersecurity division, implementation of CCMP, identification of CISAI, cybersecurity audits. This is what we are focusing mostly on cybersecurity audits because this is the starting point. Once you do the cybersecurity audit, you know the vulnerabilities or what are the weak points. Not only vulnerability, misconfiguration, and all these things, and that starts the process to plug in. When you start plugging in, you will find difficulty. Then you will put mitigation action, all sorts of things. And when we say security audit, we define security audit as 4-step process. First, the auditor will make the audit, give the vulnerability, then we will close it, inform them, they will make verification audit, then they will give residual audit, and unless the residual audit is approved, residual risk is approved, that is the point when cybersecurity audit seems to be complete for that. Way forward, CSIRT power has already been made, set up, and that will take the reins of CIRT. Probably they will start, they are already started discussing 1:1. Each week they discuss with utilities. Now that is the thing they are coming. Regular monitoring of cybersecurity at apex levels by CSIRT. Then initiative towards uniform architecture. This thing on standard architecture they have initiated for power plants. Including cybersecurity awareness, power sector and capacity building, initiative for capacity building. Manage supply chain risk through trusted sources and products. Thus, improving testing capability. Now, these are the considerations: scattered locations of multiple power plants of utility. Then one utility may have n number of locations, and managing that. That means you have to have expert manpower locally because we are not going to consolidate those infrastructure for monitoring or whatever purpose. We are not, at least we are not encouraging SOC, centralized SOC for at least OT systems because that will increase the threat vector. Now, synergy between IT and OT, that is one challenge area that we have started bridging in. Centralized monitoring of disconnected OT systems, that is a challenge. You have to man each and everything, or probably one, physically there will be 3 dashboards, physically separate, but in a room probably there will be 3 dashboards. Legacy systems, we have to have mitigation measures on that, adequate and timely support from OEMs, availability of experienced professionals, cyber awareness of majority workforce. Actually, this is the important thing. Keeping pace with change in technology and threat landscape, availability of budget and timely procurement of equipment and services. That actually is the challenge in today's day with Make in India efforts, and the Make in India are good. There are certain good products, but actually there are not many products, so it becomes a bit difficult to procure. That's all. Thank you. Probably I managed the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It was comprehensive. In fact, if you look at it, He has comprehensively covered complete gambit around him, and I'm thankful to him to enlightening thing. It will possibly go in the reports and what we intend preparing. Thank you for your knowledge, sir. I now request Professor Goyal to honor Mr. Patel.
मैं जरा बीच बीच में इंटरवेन करता हूँ. आई वांट टू थैंक मुकेश जी, अवर सेक्रेटरी जनरल. एक एक स्पीकर ऐसे बढ़िया छांट के लाए हैं कि लोग सुनना चाहते हैं और बड़ा वैल्यूबल कंटेंट दे रहे हैं. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू सर. सर ये तो मैंने क्या है, सीए ने ऑर्गेनाइज कर रखा है बड़ा बढ़िया कि सब सीसो बनाए एंड दे आर ऑल वेरी नॉलेजेबल पीपल. सो and I just requested them and I'm thankful to them that they are ready to immediately come on board and share their knowledge. Next speaker we have is from solar energy and renewable energy. Ajay Kumar Sinha. He is my friend from Army, former colonel with 30 years in defense and now with CCI, one of the renewable energy implementing agencies. He sits at the core of Prime Minister's vision. I was talking to him. He sits at the core of the Prime Minister's vision of Solar Alliance and leading the world, not just India, in that field. He is heading the corporate planning and contractual department of SEC, but indirectly he is the planner for the Solar Alliance, and I request him to give his knowledge to us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Well, thank you, sir, for speaking such nice words, sir. Gentlemen, I'll try and stick to 10 minutes, maybe lesser than that, so I'll not take it more than that. When I was post-lunch, interactions basically indicated that awareness about the conventional energy, people are aware how system works. Probably renewable energy sector, which is coming in a fast way and times to come, would be major source of energy, which is going to be part of our whole system. Awareness is a little limited. So first I will discuss about how we are structured and organized, what it leads to, and then second part would be what are the challenges what we are facing in this sector, and then third what we are trying to do. Most of the things Anand sir has already spoken as far as the working part and movement of power and the management is there, so I'll try not to repeat what has already been spoken. So I'll focus first what is how the system is right now working in renewable energy sector. Say conventional energy sector, mostly geothermal, hydro, nuclear, whatever, they are government owned and all control you have and all awareness and knowledge you have. But as far as renewable sector is concerned, we are the nodal agency of Government of India through MNRE, and we have been implementing mega projects and one of the major driver for renewable energy in India, and in times to come it is only accelerating with the committed target which has been given in COP 26 and then on 27 and beyond. In this sector, what we are doing, we are not investing from our pocket. So it is the IPP mode where the developers, they come, they bid, they win, they develop plants in their location. So once they're doing it, it's their cost, their risk, and they do everything. And we are also looking for investment from abroad. So when investment is coming from abroad, they also have the control. So they have SPV or a JV company for the local companies. And if you look at the list of companies who are participating, front maybe a majority of them Indian, but they are supported by across the globe, particularly Europe, Japan, and USA and things like that. So the product, so generation power, the renewable energy, say your solar, oblique wind, they are in the remote areas located. And once you have done an installation, say a period of whatever 18 months or 2 years period, thereafter the regular maintenance is required, which is not a very manual effort. It's a non-moving parts. Somebody has to just keep cleaning and keep looking after wherever minor defects, which can also be sensed through remote can be done. So the management day to day is not on the site so intensive than it is from remote. So data which moves towards outside, maybe within India, maybe outside. So the developers, they try to design, and where the fundings are very heavy from outside, they try to have it from outside because they have the full control over it if their subsidiaries are doing. So here comes the cybersecurity challenge for those projects. Some of the projects which are being managed within India, say big houses, they also have a their independent control because they have a commitment for 25 years, meeting that performance, and they're earning in on basis of every month's invoice. So they try to have the total management control and safety security. As power sector has become much more aggressive in looking towards energy say cybersecurity, interactions have started, CA have come, guidelines have started coming in, or interactions started. What we have found in RE sector developers, which are basically the owner of these projects, the two types. Some who has a total awareness and they have got the best of cybersecurity setup installed in their system, and they're independent, unique, structured, and the best of the minds they have hired. Some who are new, they are very low as far as the knowledge base is concerned, and their preparedness or awareness, they have done something, but their awareness and preparedness is not that much. So in the concerted effort which is going on for quite some time, now we are making effort to bring everybody on board. There are guidelines, 14 articles are there, we are trying to push them ahead slowly and slowly, but there is a resistance. Resistance with respect to they have their own control, they don't want to share with anybody. They said that the very idea of my cybersecurity gets compromised the moment I share my details. How can I am giving assurance that is my project, I have invested, it's my commitment because I'm going to be penalized if something goes wrong. So there is one aspect of it. So that is being resolved. As far as CK is concerned, we are the central nodal agency for helping the RE sector to implement the Government of India's guidelines and the new methods, how to transit them. So regular interaction, meeting, sharing of information, hand-holding, all those things have already been spoken, so I will not speak to on those aspects. So those are the issues which are going, but remoteness and ownership, these are one of the primary things which leads to kind of a control system. As Anand sir had also brought out, that power sector earlier was, say everything was by and large government owned, now a substation or something which is being owned by a private entity which will in times to come further increase. How do we manage those aspects? And I have my personal view with respect to being a concurrent list. It is a contextual, even constitution can be amended as it becomes dynamic and time goes by. Probably when independence took place, that time grids were the localized grids, not as a national grid. And concurrent list had a different connotation. But today, power is no more as in a utility. It's a kind of a security, national security now. The moment you get into a sense of national security, that's how probably most of us are concerned about it. National security has to be seen in different contexts. So is it a time, at some point of time, or some method to look into it, how we see as a national security aspect of power? Because any sector, any area going down, if power goes down, every function by and large comes to a standstill. So we probably have to see that aspect also at a very highest level. Things have to be thought about it, how we address those issues. Those would be policy, because that will drive many functions down below. As far as assets are concerned, being a new entity, power projects are developing very recently. So we, as of now, we have the best of the assets for cybersecurity in terms of software, hardware, and since it is owned by developers, so they are also keeping updated on a regular basis because it is financially going to impact if something goes wrong. So this is broadly, I just wanted to complete within the shortest time. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for allowing us to share our views. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Colonel Sinha. It was pleasure listening to you and giving the insight into the new challenge which has emerged due to the Solar Alliance, the various company. I now request Professor Goyal to honor Colonel Sinha. So way back in 1999, I wrote my dissertation in Staff College on Convention of Cyber Warfare. That means well before even IT Act. I have worked on what the warfare will look like and what should be the nation state should be shaking hand on, that we will not do this and we can do this. In that we did, I was doing a study on Intel Clipper. If some people may not know, Intel 3 had a clipper where if you put the chip, the US government will get the information. That Intel chip clipper has to be finally replaced because there is a lot of UN cried, they got caught red-handed. So that, remember, those things are not gone off. So what chip you are going to get, will it have clipper kind of inbuilt into it in OT system? We still don't know. And that's why testing and tuning is required. We will be forming, let me inform that we will be forming working groups out of whatever the outcome document comes and whatever the recommendations become. We'll be forming working groups and we'll be requesting everybody to help us join. It will be not the, we are not the organization which is going to end the event by today evening 5 o'clock. No. We are intent taking it to the logical conclusion. That means we will work throughout the year so that next year when we are here, we will, with the sir's permission, we may have even award ceremonies going. We will be having working groups which will be helping the government and stakeholders to develop their products, policies, processes, and rules and regulations. We will look at all those aspects and we'll expect and request everybody's support in our endeavor to secure our nation. Now going further, I request now Vaibhav Rathore of Andres. He is a senior manager in sales marketing of Andres. He is an automation and digital cybersecurity specialist for 16 years plus wide experience on the various energy organizations to securely and efficiently scale automation, digital and cybersecurity solution in the power sector. Vaibhav has industrial experience in renewable energy, T&D business, utility for offering automation, digital and cybersecurity solution services for power system. He has rich experience in cybersecurity in power sector. Let's gain from his knowledge. And but Vaibhav, we have precise 5 minutes and not longer than that. Sorry to do that. Yeah.
Comes to the last question.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Firstly, thank you CSAI for organizing this and for having us. To all the dignitaries, from the morning we have been listening to this, how the cybersecurity guidelines and how it is essential to us and how it is critical for India infrastructure. So I'm not going to repeat it. We all know that how much critical it is. Apart from the guidelines, what as a private organization, as an OEM, what we are doing in it and how we are able to secure the power plants, this is what we are going to talk about. Just before that, just a little brief what is ANDRITS. ANDRITS, it's a 170 years old company, and it's a global OEM for hydro organization. Sorry. Right. So in India, we are almost here for last 30 years. We are total, we give the electromechanical equipments from what we say water to wire, from penstocks, turbines, generators, automation equipments, and of course cyber security solutions. So, so we have three major offices. One is in Delhi and manufacturing facilities in Faridabad and Bhopal, and other regional offices. So what we have, there are around 700 units that we have already it has installed in India, which is, I think, next to BHL, we can say, and it is, and globally also, we can proudly say around 25% of the global hydropower generation that the equipment supplied are by ANDRETS. So that was the brief. Now coming to the cybersecurity solutions. So basically, ANDRETS has three basic cybersecurity solutions. One is what we call HiNet, that is the high networking solution, high security. So high security network solutions are like when you are providing a SCADA system or the OT solution for a power plant, then these systems has to be secured in a high network way, and there has to be managed switches, there has to be different layer of switches, and there has to be a different office network, different control room network, and different remote networks. So all together, a different solution is being provided. For HiREM, HiREM is online, because now what we are seeing that more and more monitoring is happening. If I know NHPC is monitoring most of the plants at their HO. So there are other utilities also which wants to monitor all the critical data to their head office. So we have a solution for HiREM which are already secured how the network security is going on. And the major one is what we call HiSec, that is a high security, that is for the solutions at the power plant level, and the pattern and patches, the software updates, continuously updating, which is as per the CA guidelines now. So this is what HiSec is. So it covers mainly the antiviruses, intelligence, the networking monitoring of the network that we are using in the power plant, plus the remote locations. For like now we have the AGCs, automatic generation control, the load dispatch centers. It is controlling the data. Then the whitelisting and the major the OS operating updates. That is one of the major things, as we know, that once the system is installed, what in the panel it was also discussed, the legacy systems. So what is happening that once the plant is being commissioned, so there are no further updates on it. Once it is installed, that is the last, and you cannot update it further. So now, and it has a system that you can regularly update as per the OS updates concerns and the software updates also. And these updates, once the Microsoft releases it, it gets tested to R&D centers, and only which is required by the system, because there are many updates which can shut down the whole system there. So those are tested, and then these are sent to a network. How it is sent, I will just show you. So we have a tie-up with other primary networks also, companies also, which are monitoring in the like Trellix, McAfee. They are secured. We have made a solution how we can give it to the power plants and secure the whole system. So I will just give you. Okay. So this is typically a power plant configuration, where you can see there are HMIs, there are OT systems, there are RTUs, which is connected in a network system. And then there are several layers also, where monitoring systems of the network. Now, this is working in, just for instance, these are isolated. Now, the requirement has changed for the Indian power systems. Now, all the data has to be connected to a load dispatch center or to the monitoring of the utilities. Now, how do we secure this? Firstly, we need to update it. So what we do, we put a HiSec server, what we call. So this server is connected through our servers from our R&Ds, and specific updates or the patches that are being sent through a firewall. And these are updated not to the network directly. These goes directly to the server, which is get stored, and a notification immediately goes to the end client that these patches has been been sent and it is been getting updated at your servers. And once the operator there, they have a plant when it is not running. Normally they do it when it is shut down in the evening time, or then they click a button, and then it doesn't goes immediately. First, the system scans everything, every network, every equipment in the network, and then when it is satisfied, then all these updates gets to the all the systems. The patches, the antivirus updates, the OS updates, the software updates, but it is through a secure network only. And I believe this is, I've read, we had a discussion in the panel also. Mr. Puri said that the CA guideline, it is, I've also read it, it's a very comprehensive guideline which has been created, and specifically for the power system, it has been taken into account that how the systems can secure. And it is, I see these pattern and patches is also a part of it, that you have to update, secure the softwares and the OS systems also in a phase-wise manner. So this is one of the systems that you can update the systems regularly, your OS systems, your RTUs, everything can be updated here. So as I'm running short of time because of it, so I will just try to complete it. So we are also ISO 27001 certified in it, and all these systems are in need of the hour for now. And if I say, yes sir.
What happens if your ISS server is compromised?
Compromised in the sense? It is connected through a, it is, yeah. No, it is connected through a firewall, sir. It is not there.
It is connected to a firewall.
Yeah.
Firewall systems are also compromised.
Yes, yes.
I'm not asking about the complete power plant.
Uh-huh.
I'm just asking about specific ISS servers.
Yes.
Can you take it offline, please?
It does have intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention system also. And if anything happens, the alarm will come first, and it will not be, it is not directly connected to the power plant. It is on the operator basis first before it checks it, then it goes. But we can discuss.
Patches can be, patches can be inbuilt with a payload.
Yes, sir, we can take it. I will just explain you. So, absolutely. So, just before closing remarks, as again what Mr. Puri said in his statement, that implementing a policy is one thing, but actually implementation, that is, because now the policy is already there for last 2 years. And in hydro, things are moving, but they are not moving as it should have been moving, at least for the state utilities. So we do hope and believe that to make this great nation cyber secured, everyone will come in place, and we will have a very secure, cyber secured nation in the coming days. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Vaibhav, giving us insight into your product and processes. I now request Professor Goyal to honor Vaibhav.